Comiskey.
Here.
Mrs. Joffrey.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Mr. Munoz.
Present.
Mrs. McKnight.
Here.
Let's salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So public meeting of the Borough Council, Borough of New Providence, County of Union, State of New Jersey. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with PL 1975. Chapter 231, that annual notice of revision was made in conformance of Section 13 of the Act. Okay, we'll go right to the introduction of ordinance 2204. Denise, please read the title.
Ordinance 2022-04, calendar year 2022 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
So moved. I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Comiskey.
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey.
Yes.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight.
Yes.
Budget presentation time.
Yep, that's a presentation.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, public hearing. You have to have a public hearing.
Oh.
Anybody wishing to address council on the introduction of the ordinance? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. Okay, we'll go to budget presentation.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, I'd just like to say, number one, thank you to Bernadette Kukaro, our borough administrator, who's not here. She will be here shortly. Mayor Al Morgan, Councilwoman Lisa McKnight, our CFO Joe Kovalchek, our finance committee. When I ran for council originally, I remember being asked what committees I wanted to be on, and a lot of people said the finance committee, and I always shook my head. I'm an accountant, and I said, why do you want to be on that committee? It's the hardest one, right? It is truly, an effort on all finance committee members, by our borough administrators, from all of our heads of all of our departments. So I just want to thank everyone for coming together and getting this done. In today's day and age, these budgets are harder and harder because you really want to look at every line item, and we do. So let's get into our presentation.
Are we going to put out the screen?
Yeah. Wendy, do we have the budget presentation for the monitors? Bernadette does it. Do we know how to connect your laptop to the monitor? Because the presentation is on the it's on the agenda, right?
Yeah, we can come back to it. We'll do the other stuff.
Do you want to do more
Switch
to the order? You want to switch to the order and then come back?
You want to try it from, yeah.
I don't think you can.
Okay.
Just give it a minute. I think it's important for you to see, or also just me talking, and I'm a visual learner, so it'll be easier to see things, I'm sure.
We have, the PDF slideshow is on.
It's on the agenda, so
It's
they can
on the
just
agenda.
they can just pull it up on their laptop. Should be all right. Show. See Bernadette. Let's tie it up and. Do I have a remote for each of the TVs?
I would like to know.
Life's good.
Life is good. Yep, that looks good. Just give that, yeah, there you go.
That's the latest one. We good?
Yes.
There we go. Oh, now we need it up there.
So, so when you change the slide,
You'll have to tell me what to change.
okay. All right, we can go on to the first slide.
Maybe you can blow that up so you don't have that order.
Oh, wait a second. Okay?
You can get rid of that. Just have that slide presentation for the whole screen. I mean, if it doesn't bother you.
Yeah, but I probably can find it in PowerPoint, right? That's a PDF.
Try the slide that's on the link on the agenda.
It's a PDF.
That's
but-
not the PowerPoint?
No, but I think I can get you the PowerPoint though.
You can. It doesn't work as a PDF thing, if you just click on it from. Let's see if there is a-
Once you get into the, you can blow that whole screen up. I'm 100% sure, I haven't done this in years.
But if we view and just get rid of the bars now.
Once you do it, I can't do it. Try to find this in my life.
Full screen mode.
Full screen mode.
Where do you see it?
Right there.
There you go.
Okay.
How do I change the page
Let's see if we can open it.
Try the arrow right or
though?
left.
Yeah,
got
just
it.
up and down.
We're good.
All right. All right. I guess it's downhill from here. All right. So, so we're gonna start off. We're gonna discuss the budget process, right? You know, talk about what makes up the budget and the timing of that. I think that's very important information for everyone to have. And we're going to tag team myself, Lisa, and our CFO Joe Kolacek on some of these slides. So the borough's funded by an annual operating and capital budget, which must be approved by Borough Council. That's what we're here doing tonight. The operating budget includes personnel costs. So some of those personnel costs include our wonderful borough administration, right, our recreation team, annual facility operating costs, right, keeping the lights on in the buildings, and our debt service. It's funded primarily through local property taxes and sales taxes, licenses such as building and department fees that we collect, charges for services, and other similar sources of revenue. Then there's the capital budget. The capital budget funds major improvements to the borough and its infrastructure, such as paving roads and major building projects. Resources that have an expected lifetime that expands beyond the existing year. It's supported by multiple funding sources, including bonds, which is debt, grants, which are monies that we may apply for from the state, the government, federal government, such as our ARP funds that we'll talk about a little bit later, as well as cash and other sources of funding. The annual budget process occurs between the months of November and April. At this time, the proposed budgets are prepared by the Borough Administrator and our CFO, and through discussions with our Borough Finance Committee. All costs and line items are examined and deemed whether they're appropriate or not, whether reductions or increases are need to be made. Like I said, the process is time consuming, especially in today's day and age. We do look at pretty much every line item. Next slide. During the months of January and February, the borough is in the process of closing its books for 2021 and preparing its annual financial statements. The financial statements must be filed before we can introduce the budget. So we introduced the budget last March 29th meeting. we couldn't do that until our annual financial statements were completed.
You have to go back on page 20.
Good?
Good, go.
Okay. These financial statements, they serve as the foundation to ensure whatever estimates that were used in the budget are correct and that all reserves are in accordance with our financial policies. We then review the budget to ensure none of the decisions and assumptions utilized in putting together our budget does not result in future year budget structural imbalances. So what does that mean? Basically, we're looking at the budget and saying, if we were short on something last year, we don't want to raise taxes, this year in order to cover that, and then the following year have to lower taxes because we don't need that shortfall anymore. So we try not to look year to year and look at things like last year that may have happened. We try to budget, and we're looking at last year, this year, and future years as well. There's a statutory timeline for our budget process, which I'll get into in another slide. And the budget was formally introduced, like I said, at our regular council meeting last March. And after introduction of the budget, it's put on our borough website for the citizens to review. So now Lisa's going to go from here.
There are also official rules about the official advertisement of the budget introduction and the adoption meetings. A 28-day grace period is required between when the budget is introduced and the public meeting where the budget can be formally adopted. Today's budget adoption, a public hearing will be held to allow the public to ask questions or to provide opinion on the budget. Once this public hearing is closed, the governing body can either adopt the budget in which the hearing was held or amend the budget. And depending on the amendment, the budget may not be able to be adopted on the same night, or there may be a need for further advertisement and additional public hearings. Keep in mind, next slide. Yep. Keep in mind that the foundation of the budget are actually made up of financial decisions that are made throughout the year. So there are financial decisions that are made now, as well as many decisions that have been made over time. Some examples of this are shared services. These are things that we look at continuously, right? So shared services allows us for sharing costs across different municipal agencies. An example of this would be shared dispatch or our municipal courts. We also pay special attention to union contract negotiations because this will define our contractual increases for personnel. It also allows us to manage to the best of the borough's abilities the pension costs. We analyze retirements, right? And we try to look at the timing of those retirements and try to capture cost savings wherever possible to defray some future costs. We maintain reserves, which help us mitigate some of the pressures on the operating and capital budgets by being able to utilize reserves to offset expenses. We have a multi-year capital plan. This allows us to thoughtfully and strategically ladder our debt and to manage the borough's annual debt service in the operating budget. And of course, we also have long-term planning, right? So this allows us to look ahead and plan on different capital expenditures that are going to be needed in order, to plan for those, and as opposed to, butting up to an emergency and having to raise dollars for that. The annual budget process, like I said, is year-round. It's looked at continuously because things evolve, they change, so it's a fluid thing. So it like I said, a year-round look, not just a once-a-year endeavor.
Next slide. Okay, so this is the calendar I talked about earlier, right? This is a statutory calendar that we're required to follow. And basically the actions taking, right? Budget introduction has to be done, earliest it can be done is obviously January 1st, latest March 30th. I mentioned earlier, we can't introduce the budget until our financial statements are actually filed, right? So filing our financial statements on January 1st, it does not happen. Filing our budget with the DLGS, that's 3 days after the approval. That was done, again, they approved on March 29th. Budget publication, 10 days prior to the adoption. So we publicized this budget 10 days ago. No, 10 days, 14 days ago. Okay. Budget hearing, at least 28 days after introduction. So then tonight's the hearing. We introduced the budget on the 29th, and tonight we're holding the hearing and the budget adoption, which is required to be completed by April 30th, which will happen hopefully tonight. Again, like I said, the budget cannot be introduced until the financial statements are filed. So that's the boring details of the budget, right? And what the timeline and what we look at, which I think is important information for everyone to have. We're going to talk a little bit about now what our goals are of the budget. Number one, demonstrate our fiscal responsibility and sound fiscal planning and management. Continue practices that support our AAA bond rating. So you hear us talk about AAA bond rating. We have a slide Lisa will talk about a little bit later about what that means. But we want to continue to make sure that some of the decisions that we're making won't affect our AAA rating, because that saves money to the borough. It saves money to our taxpayers. We want to ensure that we have adequate funding levels of reserve accounts for tax appeals, storm recovery, and insurance. Those are three items that if we aren't funded for example, if we have a major storm and we don't have the funding to clean up, we may have to raise taxes in order to do that, or borrow money in order to do that. We try to put ourselves in a financial position to be able to handle those things. And those are the things that the bond agencies look at to make sure that you're fiscally sound and you can do that and you can handle those situations. Another goal is keep our municipal tax increases within affordable limits, especially considering the impact of concurrent decisions on future budgets. So, what I mean by that, again, like I said earlier, we don't just look at this year. We're trying to look at future years as well and determine what are some of the items that we may be looking and planning on, whether it's a capital improvement or whether it's operations and businesses that may be coming online, things of that nature. So we're always looking to seek out efficiencies to contain our operating costs and overhead, seek shared services wherever possible, seek grants wherever possible to fund our operations and our capital improvements. And I think one of our most important goals is to deliver the high level of services that our residents expect. Next slide.
So I'll talk a little bit about the AAA bond rating. We hear a lot about this, but why, what is it exactly? So a AAA rating is the highest possible rating that can be assigned. And New Providence has received a AAA bond rating from not just one or two, but all three of the major rating agencies, which include Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch's. What this means is that we've demonstrated the strongest creditworthiness relative to other municipalities. It also means that we're able to meet financial commitments, and we have the lowest rate of default. So this all comes into play later when we're looking at cost of borrowing, right? So there's only a few select municipalities in New Jersey that have a AAA rating from two agencies. There's even fewer that have a AAA rating from all three. And we are very proudly can say that we're one of them. So why is a AAA bond rating important? It's important because New Providence does use debt to pay for its long-term capital projects. And that cost of debt is directly correlated to our bond rating. So let me give you an example. If we took out a $25 million bond with a AAA bond rating and a duration of 20 years, the interest would be approximately, let's say, 10.7 thousand. No, actually, over 20 years, 10.7 million. If we had a AA rating, it would be 12.04. So that's a considerable savings. So we're looking at a yield savings of, let's say, 750,000 to 1.27 million over the duration of the bond If you break that down even further, it's like between $80,000 and $125,000 a year of cost savings. So that's the difference, and that's why we need to maintain that AAA bond rating. It is a considerable savings to our borough and then directly to our taxpayers.
So a little overview on what your taxes are. The owners of real property in New Providence, they pay real estate taxes based on the assessed valuation of their property, right? That's residents and businesses, right? Municipal governments, like New Providence, they collect that property tax for the benefit of 3 taxing agencies or entities: the municipality, local schools, and Union County. The municipality, right, that's the portion of our taxes that directly affect the borough. Mayor and council, they only control that portion. That's all we have control over. Okay. Local schools, that tax is determined by the Board of Education. The borough has no control over that. Union County, the county budget is established by the county commissioners, and the county budget, again, New Providence has no control over. So where do your tax dollars go? So let's break down your tax dollars into those 3 components. So here's an estimate of the 2022 tax bill and how it breaks down between the municipality, right, the Board of Ed, and the county. Our municipal taxes, 20.7% of your total tax bill, right? So roughly $3,150 of the $15,000 on the average assessed home is municipal related. We have some open space tax and a library tax. Union County, 21.22% of your taxes go to the Union County. They also have an open space tax. And 55.86% go to the Board of Education, right? So that's a very important breakdown that you can see, you know, your total taxes as a whole and how it breaks out between the 3 major components. Okay, next slide. So what does that mean for 2022? That's an increase in our municipal tax rate of 1.98%. That equates to $61 per year or $5.08 per month on the average assessed home in New Providence. Conservatively, this budget conservatively anticipates reduced revenues from COVID-19, including our municipal court fees, interest on our investments, parking permits, hotel taxes, right? They're all down again due to COVID-19, right? So all appropriation reductions have been made. It maintains, like I said earlier, one of our major goals, maintains all current programs and staffing levels, right? We're not laying people off, right? We're not cutting programming. Next slide.
So we all like to compare, right? And we like to do that with our municipal budget as well and our municipal taxes. So how do we compare with our peers? You could see that New Providence always has been one of the lowest in its peer communities. And in order to really get a true look here and compare apples to apples, you should notice that New Providence includes in its municipal tax garbage and sewer, which a lot of our surrounding communities do not include. Another thing to note here is that on this chart, the garbage and the sewer fees for these other communities are from 2020. If we were to inflation that up, right, to 2022, these numbers would be much higher for these other communities, and we might even actually, who knows, but might be closer to the top there. But just to make sure that when we're looking at these numbers, we are keeping it and comparing apples to apples and realizing that these other communities are not just paying taxes, but they're paying separate garbage fees and sewer fees as well.
American Rescue Plan.
I was just going to say, just to note too on that we use 2020 figures, right, for the garbage and sewer fees because that information is not available, right, unless we dove into every budget, which wasn't filed, right, at the time we were preparing this.
Right. And looking at it for 2022, it's not. And even for 2021, we operate on a calendar year basis. So the budget really has a 2-year life. So anything you're really looking at is subjective, which is why we stayed with the 2020.
So Joe's gonna walk us through the American Rescue Plan.
So the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. So our funds have to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and expended by December 31st, 2026. So the guidance today, what can we use it for? And the reason I say today, it's changed just a few times over the iteration from 21 into 2022. So we'll say today, to respond to public health emergency or negative economic impacts, to respond to workers performing essential work by providing premium pay or providing grants to employers that have essential workers, for the reduction of revenue to the public health emergency up to $10 million, which we're not getting $10 million, so it's a beautiful thing. For the provision of governmental services to the extent of the reduction in revenue to the public health emergency, make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure, to transfer money to a private nonprofit organization, for public health eligible uses for COVID-19 mitigation and prevention. So one of the things that the borough said is we want to make sure for whatever expenditures we're using that we're not kicking the can down the road. So we looked at it and said, yes, it's the revenue loss, but what's the most advantageous per way we can handle it? So we chose capital, and we'll talk about that in a few. What can't we use it for? The deposit in any pension fund, for payment of debt service or replenishing our financial reserves, for satisfaction of settlements and adjustments, not for federal match or non-federal matches or cost share requirements, or directly or indirectly used to offset the reduction in tax revenue. If we did this, we would have to repay the dollars plus a fine to the Treasury. Nothing we would want to do. In this budget, we're following the federal and state guidelines, and we're using $711,484.50 of funds. So where are we using it for? Engineering work for a pedestrian bridge, upgrades to our computer system in the wastewater management plant, an emergency action plan that's required for Clearwater detention basin, and then for milling and overlay projects and road projects. So that's what it's being used for.
And then just to add to that, right, so we can't use it to reduce revenues, right? Or we can't use it to offset reduced revenues, right? We are using it for those projects that would essentially utilize taxpayer money, right, had we not received.
That's correct. So we could not use this to lower our taxes.
Right.
The next colorful slide is a nice colorful pie chart. Gives us a breakdown of the appropriations. You can see that the right side of that pie chart is basically just about half of the total appropriations, and it's sliced into three different slices. The biggest chunk goes to public safety at 20%, and that is, one of our main focuses, right? Keep our residents safe. That is providing funds for our police, our fire, our EMTs to do their jobs and keep us safe. The next slice is for pension, health insurance, employee benefits at 14%. Keep in mind here that this is statutory and regulated. We have little to no control over that very big slice of our appropriation. Infrastructure at 15%. These are our capital projects and also include our debt service. Over on the other side, we have a lot of little slices. If we look at public works, garbage collection, recycling, and our sewer treatment and disposal plant, that makes up those three items make up a little bit over 18%. And very important piece of the pie is to keep our public works going, get our garbage collected, get our recycling done, and more importantly, taking care of our wastewater treatment plants. I also just wanted to note, just to make you aware, You'll see like those little slices. If you see the community activities and events, it's 1.5% of the appropriation. But it includes recreation programs and services, which New Providence does a phenomenal job with. There are recreation programs, are bar none, one of the best out there. And it's such a small portion of our budget. So I think that just gives an example of how well we manage our dollars and how well we manage our budget, and that with 1.5% of our appropriations, we can still provide such wonderful and great recreation programs for our residents. The next slide shows a breakdown of our revenues. Obviously, we're looking at municipal taxes as the biggest chunk at 61%. The other pieces of the pie include other revenues. Matt was talking about some of those before: hotel fees, parking, some of the shared services. The state gives us about 5%, and then the other slices are a little bit smaller. Our fund balance is at 16% as well.
Okay, next slide. All right, so on to some of the highlights. What does this budget do? It delivers a high level of service, right? That remains unchanged. Again, one of our major goals, right? It deals with the effects from COVID-19, allows us to position ourselves favorably for our future budgets. And some of the biggest drivers in this budget, so you're aware, are infrastructure needs, upgrading computer programs, our insurance costs, increased contractual costs. Solid waste and recycling are consistently going up. Our utility costs, all utilities are going up. Our pension costs, these costs are supplied by the state, they're statutory. Again, these are the expenses, the appropriations that are really putting pressures on our budget. So I'll talk a little bit about the capital budget. Next slide. Okay. What is our capital budget? As I said earlier, funds our major improvements to our borough facilities and infrastructure. It allows projects to be amortized across its useful life rather than burdening taxpayers in 1 year. So in other words, we're not going to spend millions of dollars on a project in 1 year, all right, and then taxpayers move out, new taxpayers move in, right? They get the benefit of that, right? So we want to amortize and utilize the funds for those large projects over time. Proper planning of our projects, which we say we go out at least 5 years. To mitigate the impact on the operating budget, right? So we try to stage the costs, right, in a strategic manner. So Lisa talked a little bit about layering, right, in our debt. We try to make sure that we have debt coming off. We're going to structure our debt in a way that we can manage our costs consistently. We're not raising taxes to pay a large debt payment that we need this year, and then we need to lower taxes because we don't have any debt payment next year. Capital projects are supported through multiple funding sources: bonds, which is debt; grants, which we get from the government; and cash. Continually invest. We do have a goal, right? We want to continually to invest in our infrastructure, right? We want to make sure that our infrastructure that's aging is getting maintained, so that it doesn't get dilapidated, right? We're constantly looking at streets. I think it's 5-6 years per street that we look to maintain every year. And of course, this is like the third or fourth time I say this throughout this presentation, but it's very important, right? We want to make sure that we're continuing to deliver a high level of service to our residents. Next slide.
Talk a little bit about the capital projects. These past couple years have been unprecedented, right? And uncertain. Matt talked a little bit about decreased revenues from fees, hotel fees, parking, and whatnot. Because of that, the borough is committed to remain fiscally responsible when we pursue projects. So we base it on immediate need, right, and not want. Matt talked about our aging infrastructure. These are all things that have to be done. We don't want our buildings crumbling around us. We don't want our police vehicles breaking down. So those are all long-term capital projects that we will keep an eye on. The borough did authorize $3.7 million for a capital improvement plan. The projects, though, will be decided on a case-by-case basis, and we consider several factors before making any decisions to move forward. Some of the things that we look at is the project, in this time that we're in right now, this fiscally challenging environment, is it the responsible course of action? Can it wait? Is it something that needs to be done? What's the economic environment looking like? What's the macro environment looking like? Does the project resolve safety issues or concerns? Those would be an immediate concern. Does delaying the project have a negative impact on borough operations? Is there an economy of scale with other projects currently underway that we can utilize? And will the project require any short-term borrowing in the form of a bond anticipation note? And just to note, projects currently underway are from prior year appropriations. Talking about the capital projects, I know that Joe talked a little bit about it. I kind of want to circle back to provide a little bit of clarity on those American Rescue Plan dollars. We call them ARP. That's our little nickname for it, ARP. So Joe talked about, what we can and what we can't use the dollars for. And we have identified several capital projects. Joe did mention them. The engineering work that's needed for the pool pedestrian bridge, milling and paving of our roads, very necessary upgrades to our computer system at the wastewater treatment plant, and the New Jersey DEP Clearwater Detention Basin Dam Emergency Action Plan. So these are 4 projects that total just about that $711,000 that we're getting from ARP. Outside of that, we also have a couple other projects, more than a couple, but quite a few projects that we are looking at. One is waterway desnagging along the Passaic, the municipal center roof replacements, the library HVAC unit, some upgrades for the fire department, looking at digital radios, replacement hoses, vent fans. I don't even know what this means, to be honest with you, but I'm assuming it's all very critical equipment that the fire department needs. And they're also looking at refurbishing one of the fire trucks. Same thing with the police department. We're looking at a variable message board. We're looking at surveillance equipment, body-worn cameras, mobile computers for the cars, all very important equipment for our police force. As far as recreation, we're looking at the walking path around the pool, as well as a cricket pitch for our cricket team. And then for other borough departments, we're looking at a recreation master plan. We're looking at digitizing the tax maps and an official construction vehicle. So those are some of the projects, or most of the projects that are on the table. I think that wraps it up.
So that wraps up our presentation. Do we want to go into the hearing?
Yep.
Okay, so Mayor, I have a resolution regarding the reading of the budget.
Denise, could you read the title of 2297, please?
Sure, Resolution 2022-97, whereas NJSA 40A:4-8, as amended, provides that the budget shall be read in full at a public hearing, or that it may be read by its title only if, at least 1 week prior to the date of the hearing, a complete copy of the approved budget shall be made available for public inspection in the free public library, if any, of the municipality, and in the free county libraries or regional libraries located in the municipality. Or if no county libraries or regional libraries are located within the municipality, the county or regional library of the county in which the municipality is located, and the public officer delegated responsibility for delivering copies of the approved budget to such library shall forward to the governing body an attestation that each such delivery was made, and B, is made available to each person requesting the same during said week and during the public hearing. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Borough of New Providence that it is hereby declared that the conditions of NJSA 40A:4-8 as amended, set forth in subsections 1A and 1B, have been met, and therefore the budget for 2022 shall be read by title only.
I won't make you read that again.
I offer the foregoing resolution and move its adoption.
I second the motion.
All right, the resolution is adopted. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to open the hearing
I just
on
gotta
the
do roll
budget.
call real quick.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Mr. Kaminsky.
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey.
Yes.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight.
Yes.
Mrs. Belisca.
Aye.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the hearing on the budget?
Yes, I move that the budget hearing be opened.
I second the motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Kaminsky.
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey.
Yes.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight.
Yes.
Mrs. Belisca.
Aye.
Mayor, this is the time fixed for the public hearing on the municipal budget and tax resolution for 2022. The budget was approved by the governing body on March 29th, 2022, was advertised as required by law on April 14th, 2022, together with notice of hearing for this time. Printed copies have been made available to the public during the past week.
Okay, before opening this hearing, I want to outline the procedures. Each person desiring to be heard will rise and give his name and address, his or her name and address before speaking. I will recognize one speaker at a time in order of rising, so I can, as nearly as I can determine. Address all questions to the chair. When necessary, they will be referred to individual mayors, members of the governing body, or municipal officials. Questions must be confined solely by the municipal budget before us. School and county matters are not proper subjects of this hearing and cannot be discussed or answered here tonight. I would ask everybody to keep their comments to 3 minutes, and I now declare the open and public hearing on the municipal budget and this resolution open. Anybody wishing to address council, have some questions? Seeing no one, I declare the... Huh?
You're too fast. Well, I have spoken twice on this issue, and I'm going to speak on it again. The American Rescue funds, the money is unique. It's unprecedented. It is money that has a broad range of possible usage. As I've pointed out in the past, the guidelines from the Treasury Department say that the Treasury urges state, territorial, tribal, and local governments to engage their constituents and communities in developing plans to use these payments, given the scale of the funding and the potential to catalyze broader economic recovery and rebuilding. What you've done tonight is, and each time that I spoke about this, you said that there would be an opportunity for the citizens to participate in the planning for the use of those funds.
That's what tonight is for.
Okay, well, but you've announced what the use of those funds are, so that there's no opportunity for anyone to participate in the planning, as would be my understanding.
You can make your comments.
All right, my comments would be that, given that you have not chosen to solicit the input from the citizens into the use of these unique funds, that you postpone the expenditure of those funds, which have been pointed out is not necessary for at least 2 years, in order to solicit input into the planned use that's already been announced. The National Council of the National League of Cities has said that as cities contemplate how to utilize these unprecedented allocation of direct federal funding for all municipalities, it is critical that all community members be welcomed into the decision-making process. City leaders should consider how to adapt some or all the different strategies highlighted. This was an article about how to go about doing that, and they suggested that you should do that. And I'd like to give a quote of one mayor. I didn't have anything prepared today, because I wasn't sure what the decision was going to be on this. Mayor Rosenberger of Wausau, Wisconsin, said that we want to make sure,
Wisconsin, did you say?
Wisconsin,
Okay.
we want to make sure that we hear from people on the front end instead of scurrying around and having them react to something we already do so. We'll have lots of chances for them to sound off. I wish you would give the citizens of New Providence an opportunity to sound off on the use of these funds. It's a significant amount of unprecedented money. It has a number of areas that it could be used. I could make suggestions, but you announced what the plan is for the funds, so there hasn't been an opportunity to participate in that. That's why I would request that you postpone the usage of those funds until there's an opportunity to have a separate hearing to analyze how that money is going to be planned to be used, given that it is not being required to be used until, I believe you said, 2026.
Well, I think that's a little misleading because it comes in halves, and we have to use half of it by 2024.
When does the money have to be used?
So you have to commit all funds by 2024, which means all the funds, we would have had to specify all the purposes,
Okay.
and then expend it by 2026.
The point is that you don't have to commit the funds until the end of 2024. That's a considerable amount of time to take into account that it would be appropriate to allow the citizens to participate in the process, which has been encouraged by the government that provided those funds to you.
Alan, Wausau, Wisconsin received $15 million. Right, we're talking about $700,000 tonight that we need for infrastructure improvements.
I don't understand what that, is that not important to you, that the citizens are allowed to participate in saying how that's $700,000?
Infrastructure is important to me, Alan.
I'm sorry?
Infrastructure is important to me.
Maybe Joe can reiterate what it is that we are looking to expend on for infrastructure improvements. So he is demonstrating to you exactly what we are looking to have it, and if you have any comments or questions about the specific projects. Again, our capital budget is not being introduced tonight, but this is what we are looking to spend it on.
Right.
Joe?
So engineering work for our pool pedestrian bridge, upgrades to our computer system and the wastewater treatment plant, the emergency action plan for our Clearwater Detention Basin Dam, milling and overlay work for the roads, and road projects. So rather than use this for operating expenses, we chose to use it for capital to help defray the cost in the future.
And infrastructure.
A lot of these are environmentally friendly, which I know is at your concern, like the dam, and there's a lot of things in wastewater treatment plant that we have to take care of. It's a very, very old plant, and we have to upgrade a lot of things like pumps and things like that, and this is a way that we're gonna be able to do it.
Well, you misunderstand my point. My point is that I may very well agree with every penny of the money that you are wanting to spend. The point is that the usage of these funds, it has been encouraged to have the participation of the citizens in the process of planning how those funds are to be used. And you have, I believe the first time I brought that up was in February, and I've been told all along that there would be an opportunity to do that, and the plans have been presented tonight as to what that's going to be used, and you just reiterated what those are, so there was no participation.
Do you have ideas on what to use the funds for?
Yeah, I have a number of ideas.
This is your opportunity to let us know.
Well, I think there's quite a bit of green infrastructures that could take place around the town. There are a number of, there are issues related to climate change that you could be using. You could reduce fossil fuel usage by using some of it to improve some of the opportunities for people, pedestrians, bicycles, to travel around the town. I mean, I haven't laid out anything, so this is off the top of my head.
So we were trying to
There
let
are
you know that
significant.
this was an opportunity for you to come to the hearing with those, so I thought you were gonna be ready to talk to us about it.
I think and I think we all agree, there are things that we need to do to keep people safe in town, like roads, things like that. Now, you can have all the bicycles you want, but if you have potholes and unsafe sidewalks and things like that, it's a matter of public safety.
Well, that isn't an issue here.
Alan, I understand you're the president of Sierra Club and you're into the climate change and everything else. And I'm all for, keeping the planet clean and everything else. But I have a duty to every resident in this community to keep them safe. And I will not have an environmental catastrophe out of that sewer plant when I need to upgrade all the infrastructure down there. And I hope you understand that our priorities are different than yours. I have to look at the community as a whole. And I understand your environmental zeal, and I applaud you for it. I really do. But we have a duty to look at the Borough of New Providence, and only the Borough of New Providence, and what's good for this borough. And, you keep coming to me with all these big issues of climate change, but the Borough of New Providence isn't going to be able to change your thoughts on climate change. We do what we're mandated to do, and we comply with the law. And I thank you for your comments. I think that's all I can say about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address council? Yes, Howard.
Good evening, Harrison Klool, 69 Ethan Drive, apartment 2A. My question is, I'm going to kind of echo a little bit of what Alan said. I had the opportunity to go through both the long version and the short version of the budget, and I think the point that he's trying to make is more so that we're hearing a few things for the first time tonight. Councilwoman, you had said a bunch of capital projects that you were considering. I would have loved to have seen those ideas beforehand so that we could, comment and see, okay, this is the direction that the borough wishes to take. And I think it would be helpful if, we had a presentation like this available beforehand so we could say, okay, these are the goals that the borough is putting forward and here's what we think. And so I think that was great that we had it tonight, but I think in the future it would be great if we could have a little bit more time to comprehend and review, some of the goals that the borough is putting forward. And so that's, I think, somewhat what Alan was trying to say in regards to the federal funds. But I think in general, it could be helpful if we just had a small presentation that kind of just outlined a couple of key points that we're looking to adapt and adopt in the future.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's why the capital plan is not being introduced tonight.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just the capital plan. I think it's also, if you look at all of these things, it just says salary versus other expenditures. I think if we go a little bit more into depth about what those expenditures are, it could be helpful. And yeah, I understand that the capital budget's not being introduced tonight, but in the future, since it's not being introduced tonight, I would ask that you would put forth some of those ideas beforehand so we could take a look and analyze them.
Well, the municipal budget has been out, and the other, it's all in black and white by line item. So
I understand, but I think there's a difference between putting in what this dollar amount is versus what, on a minor level or on a smaller scale, what these funds are actually being spent on. So if you say other expenses, I don't know what other expenses necessarily are. And that could be, for any of these things. And so I would ask, if you could go into a little bit more detail, especially on some of the big, changes, increases, decreases, here's what happened, and, make it into a presentation so that it's easy to digest.
Well, as you know, 80% or more of the budget is salary and benefits, which are contractual.
Sure.
So we're talking about a minuscule amount of money that we're working on right now. And other expenditures, Joe, you would probably give a better detail.
So there's gonna be tax maps, professional fees. So even though when you look at the budget, on the whole, it looks like it's 80%, and 20% is discretionary, I would take it a step further, because you're gonna need to have professional fees. We need to have a municipal attorney. We need to have planning board attorneys. So you're probably looking somewhere between, in most municipalities, somewhere between 8.5% to 10% of the budget that's truly discretionary at hand. So one of the examples would be fireworks. If you didn't want to have fireworks that year, but when you're thinking about the dollar amount of the budget as a whole, I mean, you're talking probably less than $1 million is what we have as discretionary funds.
I understand. And what I would say is, as small as a figure as you're saying it is, it's still a part of the budget. And so, I would still ask, and restate what I said earlier. It's just, I think we have the right to know what these funds are being spent on, even something small as that. And so I would just ask, if you could put out a presentation or something a little bit sooner so that we can digest it. That's all.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address council? Yes, Ruben.
Rebecca Kale, 35 Delaware Avenue. Good evening. Will the budget, now that it's been adopted, be put on the website, like on the main page? I needed a little bit of digging around trying to find it, the document. It's a little bit cumbersome for the average person to understand. I come from finance, I can rifle through it and get a feel for it, and a lot of it is top line. I think it's just beneficial and helpful to have it be there on the main page where people can access it and know. Just because it's not something that is known by the average person. The average person doesn't know to go look for it, doesn't know. If you type in budget, just the word budget, the first thing that pops up is a budget 2022 PowerPoint, and it's a broken link. There's nothing there. It's an empty blank link. But if you go hunting for it on the sidebar through the forms, there's folders in the forms which has the file in there. So it's a little bit cumbersome, and I think it should be available and accessible more easily and with a little more detail. Any detail you can add to it, because the average person I get it. There's expenses, it's a very small, tight budget, but if people can get a sense or a feel for, okay, this is some of the things we're looking at. Also, it would be really, really helpful to understand, where our revenue is coming in. Clearly, everybody knows our values of our homes have gone up. A lot of renovations, right? Everybody's renovating their homes, making it bigger. Builders are building bigger homes. They're selling for more money. Average cost of home now in New Providence is astronomical compared to where it was, which does impact, I'm assuming, revenue coming in. Would be very helpful to see what our revenue has been year on year and how the budget ties back into that. It's just that level of simplicity or detail on a main page where someone can access it would be tremendously helpful.
Okay, when you look on the website, you have to go into finance. And I'll show you the
So, okay, when I went looking for the budget, I found it under multiple, folders, but it would be helpful to have it on the main page. I just think it's something so important. It was something that's happening this week, and it would be beneficial.
I believe it is on the main page if you looked on the left-hand sidebar.
So the average person's looking at it on their phone, and when you're looking at it on the phone, it's really, really cumbersome and difficult to find it. And most people are not necessarily sitting on a laptop, which loads, or a computer, which loads differently than a phone would. So it would be just really helpful to have it. You have a lot of things scrolling, you have Earth Day stuff scrolling. It would be great to have a good permanent spot for the budget. A lot of websites of other towns do that. They have a spot, you just click on it and it's everything to do with the budget.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed.
As the mayor, I have to move the hearing to be closed.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey?
Yes.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight?
Yes.
Mrs. Beluska?
Aye.
Mayor, I request that the deputy clerk be instructed to read section 2, the adoption resolution for the budget.
Please read the title.
Be it resolved by the council members of the Borough of New Providence, County of Union, that the budget hereinbefore set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations and authorization of the amount of $15,213,014 for municipal purposes, $146,406.67 for open space, recreation, farmland, and historic preservation trust fund levy, $1,027,014.09 for minimum library tax. Summary of revenues. General revenues, $3,935,020. Miscellaneous revenues anticipated, $4,724,718.77. Miscellaneous revenues anticipated, I read that already, sorry. Receipts for delinquent taxes, $223,000. Amount to be raised by taxation for municipal purposes is $15,213,014. And the amount to be raised by taxation for minimum library tax is $1,027,014.09 for total revenues of $25,122,753. General appropriations within caps for operations including contingent is $14,846,523. Deferred charges and statutory expenditures municipal is $2,042,904. Excluded from caps, this is operations, total operations excluded from caps, $2,356,357.36. Capital improvements, $1,371,484. Municipal debt service, $2,322,615. Deferred charges municipal is $26,869.64. The reserve for uncollected taxes, $2,156,000. And the total appropriations, again, come to $25,122,753. It is hereby certified that the within budget is a true copy of the budget finally adopted by resolution of the governing body on the 26th day of April 2022. It is further certified that each item of revenue and appropriation is set forth in the same amount and by the same title as appeared in the 2022 approved budget, and all amendments thereto, if any, which have been previously approved by the Director of Local Government Services.
I offer the foregoing resolution and move its adoption.
I second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey?
Yes.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight?
Yes.
Mrs. Beluska?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted. Let's go to resolution 2208. Please read the title.
Are we doing 98?
Oh, nice.
Yes, I
Okay. Resolution 2022-98 is a resolution adopting the 2022 Authority Budget Resolution, New Providence Special Improvement District, fiscal year from January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, at this time we have public comment on this resolution, this one only. for the SID budget. And if anybody doesn't know, that is the Downtown Improvement District budget. And they pay that loan themselves. So, seeing anybody have a comment? Seeing none, I declare the public comment closed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey?
Yes.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight? Yes. Mrs. Belisca?
Aye.
Okay. I need approval of minutes of April 12th, please.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
No, so be it. We have correspondence, junior membership, Marcus Reichert and Caden Zoo for junior membership, which I think is great. We keep getting more and more juniors in. And we have a resignation of Eugene Lebedev, and we want to thank him for his service on the fire department. Okay, Nadine, Diversity Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2022-097 is a resolution approving request of the New Providence Diversity Committee to sponsor Race Unity Day on June 25th, 2022. So at our last meeting, we had Sunil and the high school diversity club come in and present to us what they wanted to do for Race Unity Day. So we all know the details. We're passing it formally by resolution to move forward with it. It sounds like an exciting day and a great day and a great opportunity for our students and our community.
Finance, Matt.
Resolution 2021-098 is a resolution authorizing payment of the attached bills payable list in the amount of $3,594,791.26. This is some of the significant items in this accounts payable list are our Board of Education April payment of $1,330,141. We have the New Jersey Division of Pensions, their annual PFRS payment of $944,311, as well as their annual PERS payment of $525,373. Mountain Valley Dispatch second quarter installment of $177,912. The State of New Jersey's April State Health Benefit Premium of $105,407, and our library payment for April of $85,585.
We might as well keep going. Public art.
Resolution 22-099 is a resolution authorizing agreement between the Borough of New Providence and Shelley Parriott for public art sculpture. This is the color field sculpture that is being displayed right now at Harmony Park. This agreement allows for that sculpture to remain in the park from May 19th, 2022 to May 19th, 2023. Resolution 22-100 is a resolution authorizing agreement between the Borough of New Providence and Richard Pitts for public art sculpture Green. This is an agreement between the Borough and Richard Pitts. This is to display the green sculpture also in Harmony Park. We discussed this at our last meeting. Green being my favorite color. This is a good sculpture.
Is it Pioneer Green?
It's a good question. It's green enough.
Green, Pioneer Green.
Okay, Resolution 22-101, it's the written employment resignation from Christina Cabala as a police officer, and we certainly will miss her. She came from South Jersey, way down in South Jersey, and apparently she got a job down in Logan Township, which is way down there. We are going to miss her terribly, and she thanked us profusely for getting her training and everything else, so we have to look for another police officer. So, okay, Public Works, Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2022-102 is a resolution approving partial payment number 2 for Top Line Construction Corp. in the amount of $40,775.11 for the New Jersey DOT fiscal year 2021 various streets, specifically Woodbine Circle project. And like we said, this is progress payment number 2 and for the work done on Woodbine. Resolution 2022-103 is a resolution approving change order number 1 for Colony Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $15,490. That's for the Douglas Street pedestrian bridge replacement project. This change order is for the Dunlap Street pedestrian bridge due to the additional concrete work that's going to be necessary to prepare and restore the existing abutments for the new structure. Lastly, Resolution 2021-104 is a resolution approving purchase orders number 22-00686 for Quality Electric Construction Company in an amount not to exceed $7,492 for Veterans Park utility pole. This pole is it's being replaced. It's at Veterans Park, and the pole actually does belong to the borough.
Could we just remove 102 off the consent, because it's my block, I don't wanna.
Okay, discussion items, anything? No? Okay, committee reports. I have a couple. I just wanted to, the crews are working still on the pedestrian bridges on Mee Lane and Douglas. They are in. They have to pour the concrete decking in. So that's supposedly going to be in for next week, which I'm happy to see. Kevin Boyer, our engineer, is going to be here next council meeting to go over, and we're working very hard to get the other bridge in over on Commerce Street, because it's, I can't even believe that it's not done yet, but working with the state and everything else, it's not an easy thing to do. But they're moving right along. It's my understanding that they're constructing the bridge now, or working on the design now, or whatever, so we're pushing. But I ask people, please do not go on those bridges until the tape and all the barricades are away. I wanted to welcome a new person to our business community, Zubini Wadali on 309 South. We had a ribbon cutting, and Diane and I were there, and it's a nice addition to our community. I don't want people to forget the distracted driver campaign continues, and please put down your cell phone. If you get caught, you're going to pay. Okay, it's being strictly enforced. This Saturday, April 30th, 9 to 2 p.m., Packed Community Day at the Municipal Center, and that's Operation Take Back, where we'll take any unused or expired medications. There'll be police with the car seat installations, police trading card signing, Blue Angel and Blue Guardian program information, and providing gun locks and fraud protection information. I ask everybody around the borough to please be conscious of changing of the speed limits in town. They're being enforced, and beware of a lot of utility work and pavings going on, so you're going to see a lot of detours. Just be careful out there. There's a lot of work being done. Okay, let's see. Oh, Chat with the Mayor is next Friday at 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Lincoln Room in Borough Hall. And I did want, since Pete isn't here, I'll bring up that the sapling giveaway and bag giveaway, reusable bags, was held last Saturday. It was a pretty good turnout, really. And Diane was there, and You know, I was very impressed. I didn't know the high school had a group that worked with sustainability, and they call it Tree Plenish, and you could order trees online with them. So actually, those trees are pretty good.
It was a big fundraiser.
Yeah, so it was nice to see them getting involved. The bag ban, plastic bag ban goes into effect May 4th, okay? If you have any questions, there is a tab on the website for it. If you want to get information from the state, if you put in njbag.com, it'll give you all the necessary information. I gotta tell you, it's pretty confusing. Who can give a bag, who can't give a bag, but I guess we all know it all works out in the end. I think that's all I have. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, just wanted to, I know Bernadette wasn't here in the beginning of our presentation, just wanted to say again, thank you very much for all your hard work during the budget process. It's been a long process. I also want to thank again, the mayor, Councilwoman McKnight, our CFO Joe Kolachek, as well as all the business heads, that Bernadette worked with to get all that information together. But I also want to thank Councilwoman Jeff Roy, as well as Councilman DeSarno, who also are on our capital committee with the mayor as well, who went through a lot of our capital projects, those in the past, current, and in the future. So looking forward to that next week. The engineering construction, just want to mention on Woodbine Circle, they finished up all the gas connections finally, so that was today. They're going to be moving on to Newcomb, which is the street between Woodbine. There's 16 homes there, so hopefully they can get through that rather quickly. The contractor was out and finished cleaning up some of the aprons that they had to pull up to fix the curbing, and so I'm expecting paving to start very soon on that as well. So I wanted to mention that I reached out to try to get a schedule from the engineer. He reached out to PSC&G as well. We're looking, to try and get a calendar of when they're going to start finishing up the cleanup, right? So they dig these holes, they put in the gas lines, right? They fill the holes with the dirt, and then they're going to have a separate contractor, landscaper come back and put some topsoil down, some seed and some hay. So they've done a few houses kind of sporadically, and I know a few people are kind of a little anxious right now. It's the perfect time to have seed down, so hopefully we'll get that all taken care of as soon as possible.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating, and I know Bernadette's been on the contractors and PSC&G almost daily.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're at the mercy of these utility companies. But hopefully, Newcomb Drive will get done faster than Woodbine,
Right.
more than one house a day. So, I know there's a lot that goes into it though. When you pave, they gotta fill in those holes, and they gotta let that dirt settle, and then they come back and put more in, so it levels off, so everything is smooth and it won't sink. So please hang in there. Okay, let's see. Nadine, you're next.
Thank you very much, Mayor. As I mentioned at the last meeting, Councilwoman McKnight and I were going to be working on a mental health awareness committee. We met with 2 interested residents, and the Mental Health Advocacy and Education Committee is in the process of being formed. We put together some ideas, basically starting off with the QPR training, like we mentioned last time, as well as Mental Health Awareness Month. We will be finalizing on some of those details through a resolution at the next meeting. So we're off to a great start, and I'm very excited at the prospect of that committee and the help that we can give to the community.
Great.
And that's it.
Well,
Amazing, Mr. Mayor, my committee's been quiet, so operations, normal.
oh, you're a blessing.
So, as the co-chair on the Finance Committee, I know Matt already thanked everyone, but I just want to say that as my first foray into this, right, like, you know, I know Rupa said, you know, we have finance backgrounds, it looks like it's, oh, like, oh yeah, I can handle this, but you don't realize the amount of work that goes into it. Joe, you know, does a ton putting the budget together and the numbers, but Bernadette and her team, you know, Wendy, Denise, Kathy, they just worked tirelessly. Like, every time I called, like, it was like 7 o'clock at night, and they're still going over the numbers, line by line by line by number. They, you know, thorough, detail-oriented. They didn't leave a stone unturned, and it was because of people like that we're in the great shape that we're in, right? So we could thank, like, our sound fiscal situation and our Aaa Bond ratings to this great team that we have.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna, one more thing on there's always something going on at the library. So if you haven't been there in a while, I suggest you go in, because they've really done a great job of sprucing it up. They have a new quiet area, which is so great. They painted this very soothing color on the walls. They have new lighting up. They have this beautiful artwork up, new chairs. This is a wonderful asset to our community. Go check it out. All right, so that was done. It was a joint project between the Friends of the Library and the Lions. So the Lions, I think, donated some of the furniture. It's really nice. Go take a look. Enjoy it.
Okay, Diane?
Thank you, Mayor. So Board of Education, they just passed their budget on Monday at the Monday meeting. So if you wanted to know that, that's on their website.
Is it smaller than ours?
It's a little smaller
Oh,
than
okay.
ours. There was a meeting last night. Various students in the district received awards of excellence in the arts from all of our schools. I apologize for being late. I was actually at the high school for a World National Honor Society induction. National Honor Society is coming up, and so are all of the music concerts. So if you're into that, check out their website, because there's a lot of great musicians in our town, from little on up. Historical Society, we had our annual dinner on Thursday, and the mayor and I actually attended, which was a great event. If you can, it's April of next year is the next one. But the craft fair is on May 7th at the Saltbox Museum. And then just check out their websites for more information.
Great. Bernadette, you have anything?
Operations normal. Abnormally normal.
Okay, it's time for public comments. Anybody wishing to address council, give their name and address. Seeing no one, I declare the public comments closed. I need a motion for items 1 through 13 minus number 6.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, roll call, please.
Mr. Kaminsky.
Aye.
Mrs. Joffrey.
Yes.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight.
Yes.
Mrs. Belisca.
Aye.
Item number 6. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
You're abstaining, right? Mrs. Joffrey.
Yes.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight.
Yes.
Mrs. Belisca.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Well, this was your night, Matt. Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
No, so be it. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and be safe out there.